Hi everyone, Joe and I are here this week to talk to you about coaching executives. It's something that we do a fair amount of, and also in our group, the Coaching Crowd, people have asked for some kind of hints and tips around how you work with executives when you're coaching them. So we thought we'd just approach this with some experiences to share and, some ways in which we approach our work. Hopefully it's useful for you. So Joe, where do you want to start?
Um, well, we can start with the topics that executives tend to bring to
Mm-hmm.
coaching sessions. So I think one of the things that they need often is to be teased out of just focusing on the work
Yeah.
or the topic at hand. And when they realize that they can talk about things outside of work, there's this huge sense of relief. Can I really talk about that? Yes, absolutely. It's all interrelated. A lot of issues around team dynamics. In my experience with executive coaches, they tend to have, teams that are managing large projects, and there may be some uh, issues around dynamics that they need to address, and they may not feel confident or know where to start with it.
Yeah, conflict comes up a lot, I think, in with the executives that I coach, and often the conflict within the teams that they're in. So they're working at a very high level, but actually the teams aren't necessarily the most functional of teams, and so how you navigate those sorts of things. So in terms of approaching those topics, Joe and I were having a kind of powwow offline, and we find that actually when you coach executive, you have to be quite assertive as a coach and quite strong in calling them out. So that might say, for example, is that really how you want to be seen in the business? Do you think that was a are you, I don't know, not are you proud of the way that you handled it, but in terms of what's your contribution to that situation? Like, you have to be quite forceful and get them to look inwards as well as looking outwards.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously have to invest time in building the
Of
relationship to be
course.
able to, to deliver that. But I think often relationships with executives are longer, more ongoing, because they need that ongoing support, shorter sessions, more frequent basis, so more like 30-minute sessions. But once the relationship is there and the rapport is there, I find that once you've earned their respect and have credibility, um, they want to be called out.
Mm.
So that, so almost more of there's an element of mentoring, I think, sometimes or often actually with executives. So like, tell me what you think. So once we've explored what they think, then sometimes, I've said before, I'm bored.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? Tell me more.
Mm.
Or I'll say, I've heard you tell me this in each of our last 6 sessions. What does that tell you that you're bringing this to each of those 6 sessions?
Mm.
Just that, those kind of things. So you do have to lean into your assertiveness, your confidence, your self-assurance. In order to be able to work
Yeah.
with executive clients, you need to have credibility. So you need to have a lot of experience coaching a wide range of people. You need to have studied coaching and mentoring broadly. They'll often look for people that are accredited coaches, but often come on recommendations.
Yeah, I find recommendations do work well. And I think one of the reasons why you have to have that assertiveness, and I don't think executives just want a coach. I think they want a sparring partner.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
want someone who they can go,
Sounding board.
yeah, toe to toe with. And of course they aren't going to consult me on like the strategy that they're putting in place, but they might consult me on how they might present that strategy and whether they feel like they're bringing their whole self, to the party, and what else could they use in terms of the resources and strengths and tools that they've got. I have nothing to comment in terms of content, but it is absolutely useful to be an objective pair of eyes on the thinking that goes behind it, the behaviors that are presented, and what might be going on underneath the surface. There's often power dynamics and egos coming into it, and as an executive, no one calls you out on that stuff, but as a coach, you can. And I have asked senior people that I work with, like, how much of your ego is here and how much of your kind of rational and centered thought is here. And it's a useful exploration to do, to be able to look at yourself with that raw honesty. that no one else is going to challenge you on when you're in a position of that seniority.
Yeah, balancing the loneliness that often they can experience with that need for challenge, it is a core part of our role, I think, when we're coaching executives. You've got to have a thick skin, because they're going to cancel on you many times, and might want to reschedule at short notice, and that's, you need to contract for that in advance and agree if you're happy to do that, and flex your diary for it. But what you do know is when they turn up, they need it. They want it from you, and you need to be able, as a coach with working with executives, to be able to handle complex information and move quickly from one topic to another, as well as know when you need to hold them in a space on a particular area. So you do need to be able to be dynamic and dance very quickly in the moment.
Well, well-being is a particularly important topic, I think, with executives, aren't they? Because many of these roles are incredibly demanding. They are, they do require a lot of hours, and there's not always limiting beliefs and unhealthy behaviors that drive that. Sometimes that is the reality that they're in, and the choice that they make, it just doesn't necessarily make it easier to handle. So when you're trying to help someone with their well-being and their balance, there aren't always solutions, so sometimes it's about sitting in the not knowing, but just being able to explore why something might be difficult or how they're actually feeling about that. It's a place to unload and detox, sit back, reflect, because the pace that many executives work at is so fast that coaching is often the only time they get to pause and have those kind of thoughts and reflections.
Yeah, and you just triggered another thought there, which is around how often the topic is around exit strategy. Like, do I really want to be doing what I'm doing? Because they're often financially secure in terms of choices. There's many choices. They're often well networked. And so it often comes down to, how do I make the best decisions for me? Which is a topic that's obviously relevant for everybody. All the topics we're talking about are relevant for everybody. But I think the amount of choices that are open to them are so much broader. And, even in terms of, travel, where do I want to work? What age do I want to retire at? What would my peers think if I did this? This is often a thing where they got financially secure, could make the decision to retire early and focus on something else. But they are caught up with this, how would I be perceived, and status and ego, and it's unpicking that often. So even if they decide to stay, they're staying for the right reasons.
And there's also sometimes an addiction to the buzz, like the achievement, the power in a healthy way, right? So to hold that much responsibility and that much influence is alluring, and can feel really good. So actually, the exit plan, as you say, like, how do you replace that, with something as meaningful and as fulfilling? And how do you spend your time? And that's not always necessarily about exit, is it? That might also be about job change, career change, company change, whatever it might be. So I guess it's that self-actualization piece, that purpose piece.
And I've got had several clients who will tell me in the first chemistry conversation about how they grew up in a very small town in the middle of nowhere with not a lot of money, and now they've worked their way up. The strong achievement driver, they're in this role, but there's something about, even though they've achieved all of this, it doesn't quite feel right. Because it doesn't fit with the identity that they began.
There's often healing to be done, I think, in terms of being able to update your experience from what you were, what you experienced as a child to where you are today. Like, it's almost like you need to upgrade your mindset, and catch up with yourself and appreciate where you've got to, with the gratitude and everything that comes with that. And you sort of, I think sometimes you look to people in these senior roles and think, well, they must have their shit together, like, to be in those roles. Obviously, many of them don't, like all of us, right? At any point in our lives, because whatever level you get to, there's always a ceiling. There's always something else or someone else that you aspire to and look to. So there's always inner work to be done. So expect the inner work, I think, is what I'm saying when you're coaching executives. And a lot of the work you will do will be on that, because let's face it, executives, they are generally highly capable people. Like, action orientation is something that probably got them to where they need to be. So they don't need you to set goals with them and strive for actions. The inner work is what needs to be done to make that process much easier and smoother for them.
Yeah, much more holding the mirror up.
So
yeah, I mean, that's food for thought.
There's
for
a
today.
taster. Yeah. And, if you are interested in working with senior executives and senior leaders, we have an ILM Level 7 coaching program, which is accredited by the EMCC at the senior practitioner level. So do look that up on our website, which is www.igcompany.co.uk. And thanks for listening.
See you soon.